I've been feeling very grateful looking at the fresh blanket of snow that has fallen to cover and protect the beautiful countryside around us. It means more shoveling, but it just feels right for this time of year and this place in the world. The Unitarian Church of Montpelier is located on Western Abenaki land, which has long served as a site of meeting and exchange among Indigenous peoples. We honor, recognize, and respect these peoples as the traditional stewards of the waters and lands where we gather. In that same spirit, let us respect, protect, and be good stewards of this land for as long as we walk upon it. Good morning. My name is Dell Waterhouse. My pronouns are she, her, and as today's worship associate, I extend a warm welcome to all of you. For over 155 years, this church, the Unitarian Church of Montpelier, has been a sanctuary for those seeking spiritual sustenance as well as peace and justice in the world. We welcome all into this community that affirms the worth and dignity of every person and the interdependence we share with all existence. We are so glad you're with us in our time of worship this morning. We deeply appreciate your presence and fellowship. Please know that we have hearing assist devices available on the table at the rear of the sanctuary, and also know that you can listen to and watch the service in the fireplace room downstairs if you should need to leave the sanctuary for any reason. It is always a pleasure to have newcomers and guests join us for worship. If this is your first or second time visiting and you wish to do so, we invite you to stand or wave your hand so that we can offer you a special welcome. Yay. Thank you. We are really glad you're here. We invite any of you who are newcomers to our congregation and worship to join us downstairs in the vestry for coffee hour following the service so we can offer you a more personal welcome. And we invite you to fill out the welcome form, which is available at the hospitality table, so that we can connect with you more fully. But now we can all join in the welcoming. I invite you to take a few moments to turn to your neighbors in the pews and share a few words of greeting. Woo-hoo. Thank you. We can continue with our conversations after the service in the coffee hour. Right now, I would like to invite Dave and Ellie Peters to offer a Renew, Nurture, and Grow testimonial. Come on up.
get a different view from up here, don't you? My name is Dave Peters, and with me is my wife, Ellie. Before we start testimonializing, or whatever the word is, I would like to give a shout out to Avertis and the gospel choir. We saw it online last night. It was absolutely wonderful. And I would encourage you to attend this afternoon if you possibly can do so. Having said that, last week from this podium, you had some young people speaking, Meredith to be exact. This week we have old people. And I stopped to think about it. I've got Esme beat by about 75 years. And that's a bit scary. Meredith mentioned last week that I taught Esme how to use the butter cutter. And for those of you who lack sophistication, this is a butter cutter. Okay? So if anybody wants to see it later, I would be glad to show you a butter cutter. That's what we used at the Monday lunch back in the day, and we'll be starting again. So at this point, I'm going to turn the mic over to Ellie, and I'll be back.
Okay, you still hear me? Okay. Well, I wanted to give you just a brief outline of my personal church experience. I was the daughter of a man and a woman born in Vermont, but who moved to Western New York for my father's position as a civil engineer. And when we were growing up, it was important for us to go to church. So my parents chose the Methodist Church in Kenmore, New York. And so they were never miss a Sunday Methodists. And I, as a child, would every year get this, starting with this little star pin that says Methodist at the top. And every year as I went to Sunday school, a little bar would be added for each year in Sunday school. And that was my beginning experience. Now I'm going to shift 20 years ahead. I married Dave, thank heavens, and as our children were growing up, we wanted them to have a church experience too. So we went to the Presbyterian church. And we did that because, A, we were very good friends of the minister and his wife. They had young children. Our young children knew them. And the biggest benefit, the church, well, that's not fair to say. The church was practically in our backyard. We could walk to church every day. Another big jump in time, and we've retired and decided to move back to Vermont. And we live now in Lake Elmore, Vermont. Now once our children now were away, and my former sister-in-law, who was brought up in the Universalist Church in Barrie, called one day and she said, "How would you like to meet at the Unitarian Church in Montpelier? It's a little closer for you. And I've heard Maggie Redmond's, the minister, speaking, and I think you might enjoy coming to that church." So we did, and we met Debbie often at church. We sometimes stopped at the coffee hour, but not all the time. And anyway, she knew some members of the church, so occasionally we'd see someone that she was familiar with. And even after we weren't meeting Debbie, Dave and I were beginning to really like this church. He was raised as a Unitarian. I wasn't, but I became very comfortable with what we heard at the Unitarian Church. So we decided to make a pledge. And I'm going to turn it back to Dave for a little story about our first pledge. I forgot one thing. I wanted to tell you that in the very first church, I remember my dad opening a little box, and out of the box he'd pick an envelope, and each envelope he would fill with his pledge to the church, and that's what he would take to church, as well as me and my sister. and brother.
She's a tough act to follow. When we decided to make a pledge, we did so probably about 25, 27 years ago. And about a few days later, got a phone call. And I think it was from Dave Grundy. I'm not 100% sure, but I think it was. Those of you who've been around a while know Dave, remember Dave. And he said, "My name is Dave Grundy. Who are you?" Because nobody knew who the minister, Maggie didn't know who we were, Dave didn't know who we were. So we identified ourselves, and I responded, "Thank you for your question. Who are you?" Because we didn't know who he said, "I'm the tall guy in the back of the choir." So we went on from there. That was our first pledge. This church has not always functioned on the basis of pledges. If you look under the corner seats, under the cushions, you will see numbers on almost every seat. 100 and some odd years ago, people didn't pledge, they bought seats in church. The most expensive ones are the empty ones down here in front, where the choir usually sits. Fast forwarding, about 100 years ago, they stopped doing that, and they started asking for pledges. I'd like to point out that the Unitarian Church of Montpelier spends well over 99% of the pledge money that we get for the services of the church. This is a stack of the money requests that we received in the last week without mail delivery on Monday. The only one that made a difference to us is this note, which is a thank you note from the Unitarian Church. The rest we can ignore. 5 to 50% of the money raised by these charities goes to fundraising. Here, it's much less than 1%, because it's all done by volunteers. So I would plead with you to make your pledges. Our budget as a church grows from the pledges that we make. And so pledging is very important. I would encourage you to pick a figure, not the new people who just walked in the door, I'm not talking to you. Pick a figure that hurts, and then back off, because we want pledging to be joyful and not painful. So I thank you for your support, and please continue supporting our wonderful church. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dave and Ellie. I learned some things from that, as you probably did too. There are many ways, in addition to greeting each other on Sunday mornings and being here, to take part in the life of our community. Here are a few. All are welcome for a newcomer brunch after the service today, beginning around 11:30 in the vestry. Those who are new to our congregation and anyone who'd like to get to know our newcomers are all welcome to attend. And after a 3-year COVID hiatus, the Clark Lecture and dinner will return on Saturday, March 18th. I'm told that you can enjoy a vegetarian meal of roasted tomato and white bean stew, topped off with fruit crumble for dessert, and then sit back for an engaging lecture entitled A Naturalist's Journey Through Time. Learn more and purchase tickets at the table in the vestry during coffee hour. And just in case anyone is wondering where our hymnals are, they are safe and will be back in the pews next week. They've been temporarily removed because of the Montpelier Community Gospel Choir's concerts that Dave mentioned that are being offered this weekend in the sanctuary. If you missed last night's concert, there's another chance this afternoon at 4 o'clock. For additional announcements, please consult the weekly e-news. And I want to let you know that each Sunday, a member of the lay pastoral care team is available after the service in the sanctuary to provide a listening ear if you're seeking support. Our lay pastoral caregiver this Sunday is Ruth Whitty. Thank you, Ruth. Now, let's take a deep breath. Make sure our cell phones are silenced. I just remembered to silence mine. And we can enter more deeply into our time of worship with the prelude offered by our two guests today, Aaron Marcus and Sam Sanders.
I've been wondering about paper. A simple thing that is everywhere and a part of every day. I've been thinking about my skin. It covers all of me. It is the border of my physical being. How tender, how vulnerable. How can it do what it does? How about I wrap myself in paper and call it my armor? Then I will be safe in a shield of words, in an undeniable new reality. Then I will be a paper soldier in a paper army, standing on my paper hill, wrapped in my paper armor, always ready, a paper sentinel. My skin no longer seeing the sun, my body no longer available to the world. I will live next to life. I will stand just left of experience. I will be unassailable, beyond the edge of pain, beyond the edge of joy.
Listen now to the beating, thrumming of your own heart. This heart muscle that keeps the pulse of life drumming. Each heart a home for life and love. Our hearts joined now as we gather in community to listen for the call of love. May we hear, sense, and know the love that moves between us and among us, invisible strings between our hearts, made stronger by the weaving of our voices, our presence, our tears, our laughter, our song. Come, let us worship together. And please rise in body or spirit. Join in singing our opening hymn, Love Will Guide Us.
Let us now light the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. I invite you to light a chalice at home as well, if you have one nearby. We light this flame, an enduring symbol of our collective commitment to lead with truth and compassion. Please join now in saying our congregational covenant. Oh, it's in our order of service, in your order of service. Good. Okay. We covenant to speak honestly and listen deeply to each other and the voice within. Treat each other with compassion and honor our differences. Take responsibility for the impact our words, actions, and inactions have on each other. Support each other in times of need and of grief, and celebrate the beauty and joy in our lives. Honor the gifts of the past and be gentle with each other as we grow. Encourage each other in the work of creating a more beloved community and a healthy, sustainable world. And forgive and start again.
As we begin our child blessing and dedication ceremony this morning, we'd like to invite forward any families or children who are present here in the sanctuary who might like to have a closer view. There's plenty of room up front. You can sit in the first pew or up on the floor here in front of the chancel if you'd like to come forward. Out of the infinite, out of the great mystery, our children come to us, an expression of life's longing for itself. Since the most ancient of times, human beings have gathered to give thanks for the gift of life in their children.
As Unitarian Universalists, we honor and bless our children in ceremonies like the one we are about to create. Our child dedication ceremony celebrates the sacredness of each child, their inherent worth and dignity. It also acknowledges that each of us is nurtured and shaped by others.
This morning, we have the honor of welcoming into this community and dedicating ourselves to 3 children and their parents. Our ceremony will have 2 parts. First, the blessing of the children, and then dedicating ourselves to them and their families. And so we will start with our time of blessing. I'd like to invite forward Amy and Ashley Sweet and Andrea Tucker and Anthony Hauser. Will you please come forward with your children?
Each of our names is a symbol of our unique place in the world and the unique gifts we have to offer the world. And it is through our names that we are known. What name have you given your children? And why did you choose this name?
We weren't prepared for that. This is Bailey John Sweet. Bailey is just a name that we really like as a family. And John is a name that's in both sides of our family.
This is Octavia. So she is named after Octavia Butler. Her middle name, Leland, is after her aunt and her Oma. and then her last name comes from her father. And this is Winslow Robert Hauser. First name we just really loved, and we actually found the artist after. And then middle name is after his grandfather, and last name coming from Dad.
So Bailey, Winslow, and Octavia, in a moment, I am going to offer a blessing for you with a rose and water, which are over here. And water, which is in this small bowl, is an ancient symbol of healing and purity and clarity. It's also a symbol of life because it is a substance from which all life comes, and only with it will life flourish. And the rose is a symbol of life's beauty and regeneration. The flower blossom stands for the great potential of unfolding life and for the blooming that can only happen with love and careful tending. Come over. I might ask Rowan for your assistance. If you could hold that. Okay. All right, we're going to start with you, Bailey. Just going to take a rose out of here. You get the multiflora. It has many heads. I'm going to dip the rose in here. And I'm going to bless your head up here, that you might grow in curiosity about the world. You already have a lot of that. I'm going to bless your hands that you can give to the world in your own unique ways. Bless your feet, that you might explore the world with energy. I'm going to bless your heart. Yeah, lots of it. I'm going to bless your heart, that you can grow in love and nurturing the world and all of its creatures. And we're going to give this to one of your moms to hold. Okay, let's... Winslow, hi. I'm going to bless your head. You don't want the blessing. Yeah, bless your head, that you might grow in curiosity about the world. Bless your hands. Your hands. Yeah. Is it soft? What does that feel like? That you might give to the world in your own unique ways. Bless your feet. That you can explore the world with lots of energy. And bless your heart. That you might grow in love and nurturing the world and all its creatures. We'll hand this to your mom, and then we'll move to Octavia. Octavia, I bless your head, that you might grow in curiosity about the world. I'm going to bless your hands. You want to hold them out? Bless your hands, that you can grow and give to the world in your own unique ways. Bless your booted feet, that you can explore the world with lots of energy. And I'm going to bless your heart, so that you might love and nurture the world and all its creatures. Do you want to hold this? Go. Thank you. And the parents who stand before us today have been entrusted with the gift of life in the form of their children. So Amy and Ashley, Andrea and Anthony, you come here this morning to dedicate yourselves to the sacred duties of parenthood and to ask this community to support you and to share in those duties. Do you promise, to the best of your ability, to love your children with your whole hearts, to nurture them with care, and to lead them by your example in the ways of goodness and beauty, compassion and truth, even as they strive to find their own way through life? If so, please say we do. And we also have with us up here Lee Tucker, Octavia and Winslow's Oma. So Lee, I ask you as well, do you promise, to the best of your ability, to love your grandchildren with your whole heart, to nurture them with care, and to lead them in the ways of goodness and beauty, compassion and truth, even as they strive to find their own way through life? If so, please say I do. I do. Yes.
And every parent carries a wish for their child, for how their child will be nurtured and what will flourish inside of them. As we, as a community, prepare to dedicate ourselves to supporting you and your children, is there a wish for your child that you might like to share with us today?
We wish that he keeps being kind and curious. Maybe stops putting things in his mouth. And despite being hard to hold, keeps up the energy level and just becomes his authentic self, whatever that is to be.
Octavia and Winslow, no matter where you go or what you do in this life, we want you to know two things: that this planet is better because you are on it, and that you are loved.
All of the children here have a special role to play in welcoming and supporting you. So all of you children and youth, those up front and those in the pews, wait a moment. I am going to ask you a question, and if you agree, you can say out loud, "We do." Do you, children and youth, promise to be kind to Bailey, to Winslow, and to Octavia, to play and learn with them, and to share with them the wisdom and love that you have received here? If so, say, "We do."
And finally, we turn to you, the entire congregation. Through this ceremony, we dedicate ourselves to these children and their parents. We say to them, "You matter to us, and we are glad that you are here." And I invite you now to join in a responsive congregational blessing. The words will be shown on the slides for you here in the sanctuary and also on the live stream. And I invite you to rise in body or spirit, and please respond with the italicized text. It is our faith that each child born is one more Redeemer. You got it. Your part says congregation. Excellent. Are you ready to dedicate yourselves to Bailey, Octavia, and Winslow? We are prepared to dedicate our minds and hearts to these children and to their parents. Will you strive to love and cherish them in times of struggle as well as gladness? We acknowledge the divine spark within each child. And I'm so glad that you do as well. I will lead you in the last bit of this, which should say, may we be worthy guardians of these young lives. May we build a community in which they will grow old, surrounded by beauty, embraced by love, and cradled in the arms of peace. Thank you all, and may it be so. Thank you.
So there's been a mystery in the air, something about March and mystery, and I even heard the word madness. So if you don't have any idea what I'm talking about, make sure you stop by the LSE table during coffee hour so you can sign up and have a special, secret, mysterious buddy in the congregation for the month of March. And at this time, I would like to invite the congregation to join in the parting song so that our children can go to their spiritual exploration groups. The middle school will be meeting in the small classroom, elementary school in the children's chapel, and the preschool and kindergartners downstairs in the preschool room.
Talk about a full heart. The act of giving is a spiritual practice as important as any other element in our shared time of worship. Our generosity is a form of love. Our gifts freely given help us to practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation. Each month, through the UCM Community Pouch Program, we share part of our collection with an important church fund or a community organization aligned with our values. This month's Community Pouch recipient is the Ellie Cressy Webster Memorial Fund, administered by Vermont Interfaith Power and Light. You'll find more information about them in our order of service. Half of our cash offerings will go to our pouch recipient. The other half will directly support the mission and ministry of this congregation. If you wish to designate your entire offering to the community pouch, please indicate that with a note attached to your cash or in the memo line of your check. Checks will go to the church unless designated otherwise. You can find the offering pouches at the end of the pews on the side aisles. Please pass them toward the center aisle. We are so grateful to each and every one of you for your generosity in its many forms. Your offering will now be gratefully received, and let us enjoy a musical offering.
As each one shed its chrysalis, poised, unbound, they spread their tissue wings to greet the sun. I waited for the morning heat to run off any fog, then turned both out into the meadow to flounce on the wind, to prance in the weeds, with wings of rainbow colors giving them away, skipping off to hide and lose their old man, or leap and scare me as I feigned blindness, yet a cherry cheek or blonde curl was easy enough to see. and close I lumbered to chase them up again, a father troll in reach of son and daughter, pretending I was one step slower, their dizzy flight too quick for me. And in that moment, as I caught my breath, both had flown to far off scented air, grown with little thought of home in mind. Years I walk these fields alone and find no colors in the bushes or rustle in the weeds. Behind the trees, no one waits to pounce on me. I seem to hear their romping games, the bounce and tease. Whisper then, unfurl their names into the breeze, and dream of catching butterflies again.
I invite you to join now in our time of meditation and prayer. We set aside this time in our worship service for stillness of the mind and body. This is a time when nothing is expected of you but your presence. There is no to-do list right now. There is no demand for your productivity right now, or for you to do anything other than be here, breathing, aware of this moment and the next. As you sit and breathe, I invite you to acknowledge the state of your heart and mind. Calm and relaxed, agitated and anxious, sad and grieving. Whatever the state of your heart and mind, can you offer yourself compassion? Can you know that you are held in a love beyond you, beyond your own heart, mind, and body? And let us stay in this spirit of meditation and prayer with these words, inspired by the story The Invisible Web by Patrice Karst. Listen now, there is good news spreading one heart at a time. We are connected to those we love by invisible strings. We can feel the tugs on these strings of love, even by those living far away. We can feel the invisible strings of those who remain close to us, even through death. Can you feel the string of someone close to you right now, even though they aren't there? Our strings travel far and wide, reaching everyone we know. All of us are connected to hundreds of strings. There are thousands of invisible strings reaching into and out of this room right now. These strings crisscross one another, interlacing us together and cradling us forever in an invisible web. This web knows no borders. It wraps every continent of the earth and all species on the planet, including all of us, human beings, you and me too. It even reaches to our ancestors and those we cherish in the beyond. One tug on the string sends love to all of us. One good deed travels across the web. Can you imagine this web in your mind's eye? When we can't feel the strings, we forget about the invisible web. In these times, violence and war erupt, and the strings can become weak and begin to unravel. But the more of us who care for the web, the stronger it remains. All of our hands can reach for the tangled knots in the web and work to smooth out the strings, to let love flow. We can spread the word and remind one another. We can help someone in need, say a kind word, invite another person in, grow something beautiful. And then we feel the invisible web is alive as a single heartbeat of life and love. Let us now share in a brief time of quiet meditation together. I will admit that sometimes I wonder if my actions at the smallest scale make a difference. I can sometimes feel helpless and way too small in comparison to the enormity of the pain, the suffering in the world. But then sometimes a pebble is dropped in the pond, and the small ripple jolts me from my despair. This happened a few years ago while I was eating lunch outside on State Street, right here in downtown Montpelier. This was during one of those weeks, it seemed to be happening with a lot of frequency, when it seemed like one bad thing after another had happened. The news was an endless stream of stories of the ways we hurt one another, or at least it seemed. Across the street from where I sat that afternoon, I noticed someone sitting on the sidewalk near the pizza place, and he had a cardboard sign in front of him that I gathered was a sign asking for help, and a small container where anyone passing by could drop some dollar bills or coins. And nearby, a server at the pizza place was busily taking orders and delivering plates, cleaning tables. As the lunch crowd thinned out, the server returned again, and this time with a paper plate with a couple pieces of pizza on it, and he handed it to the person sitting on the sidewalk, who offered a gesture of thanks and then began to eat. That young server's generosity has stuck with me. I hope that it has changed me. Now, whenever I'm walking around downtown Montpelier or even the streets of another city far away, I try to be more attentive to who might be around me. And remembering that act of love and generosity that I witnessed, I ask myself, how can I respond with love today? Can you call to mind a moment like this, when you have witnessed kindness or generosity, grace or compassion that has stayed with you? The idea that the impact that we have on others continues to spread across relationships and time was introduced into the field of psychology by Irvin Yalom. Yalom was an existential psychotherapist born in 1931. He developed the idea and practice of the cancer support group and worked with people especially around facing death. In all of his years of practice, he says that the most powerful concept that emerged to counter people's distress at their own mortality was the idea of rippling. He writes, rippling refers to the fact that each of us creates, often without our conscious intent or knowledge, concentric circles of influence that may affect others for years, even for generations. That is, the effect we have on other people is in turn passed on to others, much as the ripples in a pond go on and on until they're no longer visible, but continue at a nano level. The idea that we can leave something of ourselves, even beyond our knowing, offers a potent answer to those who claim that meaninglessness inevitably flows from one's finiteness and transiency. The idea of rippling asserts that we leave part of ourselves with every interaction and relationship we have in ways that we might not even know. We continue to exist through our acts of care and love. I find this to be an incredibly powerful idea, not just for those of us imminently facing death, but for all of us as we live the days ahead, however short or long they may be. What we do and how we live in the microcosm of our lives has a rippling effect on others. The child dedication ceremony that we shared in earlier reminds me of the beautiful ripples we can make in one another's lives and the effect that each of us can have as one part of a greater whole. As an adult in the congregation, you might choose to show genuine interest in one of the young people here as you take up the vow to nurture our children and to love and cherish them. And your presence and attention might bring a sense of peace to that young one, gratitude to their parent, and I think I lost my battery, Will. Years from now, I think I'm back on the pulpit mic. Years from now, that young one might remember in heart, mind, and body, like really have a muscle memory, that there was a time and there was a place that they were seen for who they are and valued for who they are. These ripples move across the invisible web woven by the strings of love connecting us one to another. In the face of violence and hate, our small acts of love work to strengthen the frayed parts of the web where bigotry and bombast have torn at the threads of our connection and solidarity. I experienced this just this past Friday. I received a phone call from a community member here at my church office who was very concerned about the reported Day of Hate. I don't know if any of you caught wind of this. That was being called for this weekend by anti-Semitic neo-Nazi groups. He had also reached out to the local synagogue, and we talked for a few minutes, sharing our mutual dismay that such a thing would be promoted. We shared some ideas for ways to counter the growing public displays of hate and anti-Semitism in our own community. And I don't know for sure what will come of our conversation, but I have faith that with this strengthened bond and tending to the invisible web, we are creating the conditions for love to grow stronger. And we don't always know for sure how our small acts will ripple out and what the outcome will be. The idea of rippling is similar to what you may know as the butterfly effect. Some of you folks familiar with that. This scientific theory was developed by Edward Lorenz. He originally posed the question, does the flap of a butterfly's wings in Brazil set off a tornado in Texas? And the question has taken on a life of its own in popular culture. Often now the shorthand for the butterfly effect is something along the lines of what Robert Redford says in the movie Havana. A butterfly can flutter its wings over a flower in China and cause a hurricane in the Caribbean. However, this isn't really what Lorenz intended to imply with his question. I appreciate the way Unitarian Universalist minister Teresa Ninan Soto explains it in their poem entitled The Butterfly Effect. They write, I wish the knowledge were easier to come by, that individualism is just a scam, that you are always the butterfly wings. You are always the storm. Edward Lorenz, a weather scientist from MIT, is sometimes misquoted on this as the premise that the flap of a butterfly wing can cause a hurricane in a different part of the world. Shorthand that isn't all that close to a representation of the math-turned-weather scientist's work. He proposed that, should we make even a tiny alteration to nature, we will never know what would have happened if we had not disturbed it, since subsequent changes are too complex and entangled to restore a previous state, which is to say that you have an immeasurable effect on the system. It will change, and you will shape its DNA. You must not believe the lying lie that you do not matter, that whatever change you can organize is so insufficient as to not be worth your time, your energy, your life force. You must be willing to dream a dream that carries forward your community. This is how we rise. You must not believe the lying lie that you do not matter. The butterfly effect teaches us that small things matter, and we are all part of a larger system. And now, don't get me wrong, I also believe that making change at the systemic level through policies and institutional change is necessary for social transformation. And I encourage all of us to play a role in this kind of change. But I believe that we too often disregard the impact we can have in the seemingly minute parts of our lives. Perhaps this is because there is an unpredictability to the impact that our seemingly small actions might have. We simply can't predict or entirely control how our actions will reverberate forward. And yet, when it comes to the potential effect of acts of goodness and love, I find hope in the unpredictability of the butterfly effect. The unpredictability and chaos of what might become of our actions means we can let go of the need to control the outcome, and we can act with faith, hope, and extravagant love. Each day abounds with moments that we can send our love out into the invisible web of our interlacing connections. And this love that we nurture and enact is a love that can foster hope. The theologian Rebecca Parker puts it this way: as we face the future, we need a rebirth of love for life, grounded in a relational understanding of human existence. Love is more than obedience to divine authority or submission to the needs of others. There needs to be a home for a different kind of love, one that celebrates erotic intimacy and happiness, that fosters play and pleasure among human beings, and that respects all people as possessing divine gifts of freedom and grace that enable us to love one another. There needs to be a home built on the understanding that all life is interdependent, whose foundation is faithful care, whose threshold is open-hearted welcome, whose kitchen serves any in need, and where love can lie down in peace and in joy. If we can create a home for such love, it will indeed be a habitation that will offer hope for our world. And so let us do one more thing to create this home for such a love and to strengthen the web that holds us. Let us remember that each act has the potential to ripple out and to create the world we dream is possible, a world woven fine by our love. So may it be. I invite you to rise and body your spirit for our closing hymn. We will be singing One More Step. our service, we extinguish our chalice and carry with us its flame of truth, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the days and the week ahead. As we do so, please join me in saying our mission statement. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve human need, and protect the earth, our home. These words of benediction are by Eric Williams. We all emerge from, dwell within, are transformed by, and called back to love. May your mind be humbled before this mystery. May your heart grow hopeful by it. May you be sustained by this love always. And we conclude our service with the postlude.
Last night, I dreamed of going out to my neglected garden to find onions in need of thinning, tall, fragrant dill, and beets. I never plant beets, but there they were. And just at the edge were some bright, wild berries to catch my eye and bring me to look. As I knelt to touch the hollow blue-green onion tips and feathers and seeds of dill, I felt forgiven for my neglect, as if the earth and rain and sun had given me a late summer chance to make something of the casual seeds I had planted long ago.